Hey, welcome back to the Zephyr Wellness YouTube channel. My name is Jake Wiskerson. This particular video topic deals with beliefs and how tightly we maintain those beliefs in the face of new evidence or new information that may suggest that we need to change our minds or our views. One of the things that triggered this was I was listening to a podcast by a guy named Doug Birch, who is a pastor up in the Seattle area, and what he was talking about was through a Christian spiritual context, the idea of needing to integrate new information so that we can live in peace and grow and not be at odds with our friends and neighbors. And I realized that has significant psychological context too and impact, because what ends up happening is as we hold tightly to our worldviews, we end up becoming defensive when new information is presented. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who may see this video, or just a lot of people out there who are saying, no, that's not true. I'm always interested in learning. I never think that I can learn enough. There's no point at which I can say I've learned it all or I know it all. But the simple fact is that there are certain beliefs and ideas that we cling to that have emotional attachments to them. And when we have those emotional attachments, what ends up happening is oftentimes we will mix up what we think with who we are. And so when that occurs and we are presented new information, if our belief gets attacked or our idea gets attacked, and we've mixed up what we believe with who we are as human beings, it feels very much like we ourselves are being attacked, and we're not. So what ends up happening, and I say feels like with a very specific intent, limbically we get a feeling like we are under attack because we have failed to separate what we believe with who we are. So we want to separate those so that if a belief gets questioned or examined, we don't believe that it's about us. We don't have to get defensive, argumentative, and then dig our heels in and root into a position that oftentimes, in my clinical experience, doesn't benefit us to continue maintaining. So the other couple of events that have transpired this week were with clients and then with a colleague, and this is where I got the insight for myself. I realized in talking with my colleague that I had some changing of mind to do in my own world, because I had convinced myself of a certain way of thinking that in the face of some other evidence simply was not true. Side note, if you're looking out over my shoulder here, this is Pyramid Lake, and if you've never been to Nevada, top to bottom is very beautiful. It's very brown, so if you're not used to brown and desert, you might not like it, but I believe it's very beautiful, and Pyramid Lake is one of the absolute gems of Nevada. It's I was glad I was hanging on there. I'm just happy to live here, and it's I think if you ever visit, you definitely need to visit Pyramid Lake. It's just this sparkling blue lake in the middle of a very dry, barren desert. So anyway, I realized that I had some letting go to do, but in order to do that, I had to separate the emotion from the thought or the belief, and I also had to take a step back. I had to separate myself from that. Similarly, I encountered some clients who were dealing with the same issue. They had convinced themselves that the way that they were believing things was correct and accurate, and that may be, and I'm not interested in changing anybody's mind on how they should think or feel about the way the world works. But when they're in my office, and they're in my office because it's maladaptive, meaning it's not benefiting them, it's my job to help challenge those beliefs in as gentle of a way as possible in order to help them come to peace in their own lives. And we don't have to let go of our beliefs. I want you to hear me very clearly on that. We do not have to let go of our beliefs, but what we do want to do is question them, know why we believe what we believe, and understand where it comes from, so that when we impart these beliefs into our lives, we can at least say, I know where this comes from and I'm well anchored in it. That way I can integrate new information so that I can grow as a person. Now, why is this important? On the surface, it seems like common sense. It seems like we would all want to integrate new information and so forth. We would all want to live in peace. Well, here's why. If you don't grow as a person, what ends up happening is you stay stagnant and everybody else moves beyond you. well, let's pretend that that's okay with you, and you're fine being an intellectual hermit, so to speak, and you've rooted yourself in your worldview, and you're not moving from it. That's all well and good, except the other people around you may not have, and they will invariably have different ideas and different opinions about how they see the world. And if you want to get along with those people and you want to fit in with their culture and your society and your tribe, if you will, then you're going to want to be able to at least be flexible in the way that you see things. You can stand on your beliefs all you want and know that you're well anchored in them, but at least be flexible enough not to point fingers and judge others, because that will trigger a very limbic response. People will get defensive, as will you, and then your relationships will fall apart. And we know we've got enough research that backs up the idea that human beings are not designed to live in isolation. We're designed to live in community and gain support from one another. We're not supposed to just be the Lone Ranger and do things by ourselves. In fact, even the Lone Ranger had Tonto with him, so that's actually probably not even a good example. But let me give a very simple explanation about how this plays out in very practical terms. I'm driving on this road. I'm heading north. I'm actually heading south now because I'm going around the bottom of Pyramid Lake, but eventually I'll head back north to go to Gerlach. I'm looking at things out my window, looking at the road ahead, making sure that my eyes stay on it. It's a 2-lane road. It can be dangerous at night because it's 2 lanes and it's sparsely traveled, and so sometimes people don't drive the speed limit. They don't drive appropriately. So I want to make sure that my head's on a swivel and I'm scanning the landscape, because this is a very open range. Horses can jump fences. We've got a lot of wild horses in Nevada, especially northern Nevada, and they're always running in and out of the highways, and people are dying on the highways. So I want to make sure that I'm scanning for horses. We would want to do this in the city, even we're scanning for pedestrians and bicycles and that kind of thing. I'm also looking in my rearview mirror, making sure nobody's coming up behind me a million miles an hour, or maybe there's an emergency vehicle that needs to pass. But I'm also taking in the scenery. But here's the thing, I can't do all of that as well as my passenger could, who's not responsible for the steering wheel, the acceleration, the braking, the turning of the corners. So if I have a passenger, and I don't have a passenger right now, in case you think this is weird, I don't have a passenger right now, but if I were to have a passenger, that passenger could spend his or her time just staring out the window, admiring the light. The sun is starting to sink a little bit. The shadows are really beautiful, actually quite beautiful on the landscape, because there's clouds and stuff. There's some snow on the hills. But I'm not studying it. I'm noticing it only secondary or tertiary to all the other responsibilities I have, chiefly, driving this vehicle and maintaining it on the highway in a safe shape. It's very possible, where are you going, Jake? I'm sure everybody's asking that. It's very possible that I might see something that my passenger sees differently. And unless I look out their window with their eyes at whatever they're seeing, I'm not going to see it the same way. Their truth will be different from my truth. It's true that I'm looking out my window and I'm seeing mountains on one side, and at one point I was seeing a lake. If I don't spin my head around to see some other stuff, that's all I'm going to see. And the same goes for our worldviews. If my passenger never looks out the windshield and all he or she does is stare out that side, they'll never see the same mountains, they'll never see the same lake, they won't see the same scenery. So while it's true that my view of things is reddish, wow, that's beautiful. I never even noticed that. There's reddish mountains out my window here to the east. Sorry, distraction, squirrel. But I'm going to see this. It's very true. It's true that there's mountains out there. It's true that there's a lake. It's true that there's a sagebrush. Now, at this side, it's actually flat. It's much flatter until you get to the mountains on the other side. And there's actually some livestock on this side, too, that I wouldn't see if that window were blocked by a passenger's head. Now, if I'm so rooted in my worldview out my window that I refuse to accept that person's very accurate reality, I'm going to get into a fight with my passenger. You're going to say, wow, it's really beautiful, all those cows out there. And I'm going to say, no, there aren't. There's no cows out there. If I'm saying that my representation of out there is the same as all of out there, then we're going to have a conflict. What I want to do is hold loosely to the idea that maybe I just don't know everything, and maybe somebody else is going to bring in some new information. I fundamentally believe, as I've learned from Christian Conti, who's a good friend and mentor, that wisdom and insight and enlightenment can come from literally anywhere. And before I met Christian, my grandfather told me the same thing, and it was in much more crass terms, which is, you can learn something from even the stupidest person in the world, and even if it's just not to be so stupid. So the same philosophy applies. It's just gentler spoken when you say wisdom or enlightenment can come from anywhere. And I truly believe that. I don't own the market on intellectual functioning, neurological functioning, psychology, systems theory, family systems, child rearing, parenting, emotional management. I mean, these are just stuff that are, they're favorites to me, and I present them in my podcasts, my videos, but I certainly don't know everything there is to know. And if I were to reject somebody else's input on that, what I'm doing is I'm stymieing my own growth. I'm pushing that person away, and I'm essentially declaring to the world that I know it all, when in fact the rest of the world knows that I don't know it all, because they know differently than I do. They simply have different experiences, perspectives, upbringings, and so forth. And so I don't ever want to be so certain as to push people away and possibly live in a very unpleasant life where I don't have any friends, and I'm angry all the time because I'm constantly having to defend my positions instead of intaking new information and evolving and growing. I just drove through this little town of Sutcliffe and heading up to, in Nixon, and I'm heading now north to Gerlach. So I will let you go so that I can pay attention to what's going on my street, and I don't inadvertently, steer off the road. But I hope you found this beneficial. If you're so inclined, please leave a comment down in the comments section. Share with friends. If you think this is complete hooey, that's fine too. You're more than welcome to your opinion. If you want to call me names, please don't do that. That's hurtful, and I don't invite more pain into the world, and I would encourage you not to do so either. You can also reach us at info@zephyrwellness.org if you have an idea for a video that you'd like to see or a topic you'd like shared. If you haven't checked out Noggin Notes yet, please check out Noggin Notes, nogginnotes.com, or you can download the app, which is an emotional functioning app where you make notes, and then listen to the podcast also, which is a podcast that I host over there at Noggin Notes. On behalf of the Zephyr Wellness family, I thank you for listening, and I wish you all great mental wellness. Bye-bye.